I worked myself into the ground to give her a future. I never asked for anything until one day I did. Her answer? You owed me. What came next changed everything. That sentence still echoes in my mind like a punch I never saw coming. It was late, nearly midnight, and I was sitting on the edge of my twin mattress in a one-bedroom apartment that felt more like a closet than a home. My knees were aching from the warehouse shift, my hands still stained from the auto shop grease I could never quite scrub off. I had just finished my third job for the day, delivering pizzas in a rusted-out Toyota that burned oil like it was fuel. But I did it, day after day, year after year. Also, my little sister, Amanda, could walk into her future without the same weight that nearly crushed me. Back then, it felt like the right thing. No question about it. Amanda was only 12 when Mom died. Our dad had already bailed long before that, left behind nothing but a bunch of unpaid bills and a chain-smoking habit I swore I would never pick up. I was 19, barely scraping by. But when Amanda looked at me with those terrified eyes after the funeral, I knew. I would take care of her, no matter what it cost me. No one asked me to. No one even offered to help. It was just assumed I would pick up the pieces. And I did. I dropped out of community college after one semester, picked up a full-time gig fixing alternators for a guy named Pete who paid cash under the table, then added weekend bartending at a dive joint with sticky floors and a jukebox that only played country. A few months later, I started delivering pizzas at night just to keep food in the fridge and the lights on. I told Amanda school mattered more than anything. She had brains, dreams. I wanted her to chase them with both hands wide open. I did not mind the grind. I really did not. Every time she brought home a straight-A report card, I hung it on the fridge like it was a damn trophy. When she got into Penn State with a partial scholarship, I cried. Me, the guy who never let anyone see him weak. I filled in the gaps she could not cover. Tuition, rent, textbooks, groceries, even the damn parking pass for her apartment complex. I worked through pneumonia once just to wire her money after she said her laptop gave out the week before midterms. She never thanked me. Just texted a quick, got it, and moved on. At the time, I told myself she was stressed. But part of me noticed the gratitude never came. And I never asked for anything. Not once. But that all changed 6 years later. And what she said made everything unravel. By the time Amanda graduated, I was 31. No degree. No savings. No real path. Just calloused hands, chronic back pain, and a resume full of jobs that never came with benefits. But I smiled at her ceremony like the proudest man alive. Sat in the folding chairs while everyone else clapped politely. I cheered like a lunatic when they called her name, tears burning behind my eyes as she walked across that stage in a cap I helped pay for. She was glowing, full of life, ambition, future. Her friends circled her like planets to a sun, and I watched from the side like a piece of furniture, familiar but forgettable. Still, I kept smiling. I told myself this was the payoff. All those years of saying no to myself were worth it. No vacations. No real friends. No hobbies or nights out. I skipped weddings, birthdays, and even funerals because I was either working or just too damn tired to pretend I was okay. Once, I turned down a promotion at the shop because it would have required evening classes, and evenings belonged to Amanda. Driving her to study sessions, sitting in the car during her high school debate meets because she said she needed moral support. I gave up more than I even realized at the time. And then I blinked, and she was grown. Moved to a different city. Got her own apartment. A job at some PR firm that had words like elevate and synergy in its mission statement. She stopped calling as much. Texts turned short. Our calls turned into holiday check-ins and birthday reminders. I told myself that was normal. She was building her own life, right? But deep down, I was waiting for the day she would say, "Hey, Mike, you really saved me. What do you need?" Just once. I never expected her to repay anything. I just thought maybe one day she would want to. That day never came. And then, out of nowhere, life threw me one of those curveballs it likes to save for people who are already exhausted. My transmission went out. The repair cost more than what I had in my entire checking account. So I did something I had never done before. I called Amanda. Not to beg. Not to guilt her. Just to ask for a little help. A loan. $500. And the way she responded? It changed everything. When she picked up the phone, her voice sounded distracted, like I had interrupted something more important. I could hear the clink of dishes, the hum of what I guessed was a podcast playing softly in the background. I kept it light at first. Asked how she was. She said she was fine, a little busy. She asked if everything was okay. I told her the car broke down, and I was short for the repair. $500. I promised I would pay her back by the end of the month. I even offered to send her a picture of the invoice. There was a pause. Not a long one, but just long enough to sting. Then she let out this small sigh. The kind people give when they are trying to be patient, but really are not. And she said it, so casually I almost missed it. You were supposed to help me, Mike. You owed me. Just like that. Like all those years I broke my back to give her a chance at a better life were not sacrifices. They were just what I should have done. I asked her what she meant, thinking maybe I heard her wrong. She repeated it. Slower this time. You owed me. You were older. You were the adult. That's what family does. My mouth went dry. My ears started ringing. I do not even remember what I said after that. I think I thanked her for her time. Maybe I told her not to worry about it. Maybe I just hung up. All I know is that I sat in that empty apartment for over an hour, staring at the dead phone in my hand. Owed her. Like I had been paying off some debt. Like my entire 20s were just the cost of her future. She had never seen the nights I cried from exhaustion. Never noticed how my knuckles cracked open from cold warehouse air, or how I once worked 3 straight days during a snowstorm, just so her rent would not be late. But suddenly, I was the one who owed her. That was when it hit me. She did not see me as someone who gave up his life for her. I stopped texting first. Stopped replaying our childhood like it justified everything. I started thinking, what if I was never her hero? What if I was just her safety net? She saw me as someone who was just doing his job. And that realization broke something in me. But it also lit a fire I did not know I still had. Because that was the night I finally started seeing things clearly. After that call, something changed in me. It was like I had been carrying a backpack filled with bricks for over a decade, and only then realized the straps had worn into my skin. I had been so used to the weight, I forgot what it felt like to question it. That night, I didn't sleep. Just laid there staring at the ceiling while the cracks in the plaster turned into little road maps of my life. Every turn I had made, every fork in the road, every missed exit, so many of them were because of Amanda. Not because she asked me to, because I assumed it was my job. Because I believed, deep down, that taking care of her would somehow give meaning to everything I had given up. And yet here I was, alone, broke, tired, and apparently, in debt to her. The next day, I did something I had never done before. I skipped work, called in sick to all 3 jobs. My managers were pissed, but I did not care. I took a bus to the old neighborhood, just to walk, just to breathe. I passed the school Amanda used to go to. Still remembered the way she ran up the steps with that pink backpack and how she waved at me every time like I was her whole world. She used to call me her hero, said I was like Superman. Now she saw me as an obligation. I sat on the same bench I used to wait on while she was in after-school programs. The one I had fallen asleep on more than once from working back-to-back shifts. I sat there for a long time, and I started to realize something ugly. Being the responsible one in a family? It is a trap. People talk about loyalty and sacrifice like they are sacred, but nobody ever tells you the truth, that the more you give, the more people expect. And when you finally hit empty, they act like you failed them. They never see the cracks until something breaks. I had made Amanda my purpose, my reason for working, for staying afloat. I had taken pride in it. But now, I saw it for what it was, a story I had written alone, and one she never even read. And sitting there, watching the sun dip behind the school's roof, something inside me whispered loud and clear. It is time to stop saving everyone else. 3 weeks passed. I did not call Amanda. She did not call me. I went back to work, but something was different. I was not showing up early anymore. I stopped saying yes to every last-minute shift. For the first time in years, I started leaving on time and going home before the sky turned black. And in those quiet hours I used to spend fixing broken things, I started fixing myself. I dusted off an old notebook I had stashed in a drawer, something I used to write in back when I still had dreams. Ideas for a garage of my own. A place where people could get honest work done on their cars without being ripped off. I used to call it Mike's Straight Deal. That dream had sat in that drawer for over a decade. I started sketching logos again, running numbers, watching YouTube videos on small business grants. And then Amanda texted me. It was short. Hey, can you help me look over my lease? Having issues with my landlord. No apology. No acknowledgement of what she said. Just another ask. Something in me snapped, but not in an explosive way. It was quieter than that. Cold. Steady. I called her. No more texts. She answered with her usual cheerful tone, like nothing had happened. I did not waste time. I said I could not help. I told her I was focusing on getting my life together. I said it was time she started figuring things out on her own. There was silence. Then came the bite in her voice. Well, so now you are just going to abandon me? I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I finally saw it. For years, I had confused her dependence for love. She was never cruel. She never hit me. She never screamed. But she knew exactly how to pull my strings. How to make me feel guilty. How to keep me just busy enough taking care of her that I never had time to build a life of my own. You are not being fair, she said. I never asked you to sacrifice all that. Exactly. She never asked. She just accepted it. And the worst part? I let her. I told her we needed to talk. Not over the phone. In person. She agreed, a little hesitantly. And when that day came, I did not come as the broken big brother hoping to be seen. I came as someone who had finally opened his eyes. We met at this little diner halfway between her place and mine. It used to be our Sunday ritual when she was in high school. Pancakes, scrambled eggs, orange juice, and me pretending I was not dead tired from another night shift. I got there first. Ordered coffee. No sugar. She showed up 10 minutes late, looking polished, like she had just come from some meeting. Designer bag, nails done, that confidence she wore like armor. She gave me a quick smile and sat across from me like we were just catching up. No apology. No, how have you been? I skipped the small talk. I told her I was not mad. I was not holding a grudge. But I was done. She blinked, like she had not expected me to be so direct. I explained how much I had given up, not to guilt her, but because I needed her to understand. I laid it out piece by piece. The jobs. The missed opportunities. The years I had spent building her foundation while mine crumbled. And then I told her what hurt the most. Not that she had not helped when I finally asked. Not even the coldness in her voice. But the words, "You owed me," I said, that broke something I do not think can be fixed. She looked away, stirred her iced tea like it had answers at the bottom. And then she said something that sealed it all. I did not mean it like that. But, I mean, you were the adult. I was a kid. You chose to help. I nodded slowly. She was right, in a way. I had chosen it. But what she did not seem to understand was that I had been a kid, too. 19 is not grown. 19 is barely out of childhood, still dreaming, still building. And I gave all of that up for her. What I needed, just once, was for her to recognize that. But she would not. Or maybe she could not. To her, I had always just been the guy in the background. The one who made things happen. The one who never needed anything. I stood up, dropped a 20 on the table, told her I loved her, that I always would. But we needed space. Real space. Not the kind where we pretend everything is fine and keep playing roles that stopped serving us years ago. I said, I'm not your backup plan anymore. And I walked out. Not angry. Just finally free. The weirdest part of walking away is how quiet it gets. No more middle-of-the-night text about rent due. No sudden phone calls asking for favors wrapped in half apologies. No false emergencies that always somehow landed in my lap. Just silence. The first few days felt strange. Like quitting a job you had for so long that even the misery felt familiar. I expected her to call, maybe even show up. But she did not. Instead, I started hearing things from the edges, mutual friends dropping hints that Amanda thought I was overreacting, that I was burned out, that this was just a phase I needed to work through. One even said she thought I was jealous of her success. That one stung more than I care to admit. But I kept my head down, went back to work, saved every dime I could, took that notebook and turned it into a real plan, applied for a grant, talked to Pete about leasing part of his garage to start my own small repair corner. Then something happened that shook me hard. My uncle passed away. He was one of the few people who ever told me he was proud of me. Quiet guy. Fixed clocks for a living. Showed up to every graduation Amanda had. Even mine, when I barely made it out of high school. His funeral was the first time I had seen Amanda since that diner. I stood near the back of the room while she sat front row with his daughters. I could feel her glance my way, but she never turned her head. Not once. After the service, people milled around, offering each other weak coffee and reheated condolences. I stood near the coat rack, finishing my third cup of bad coffee, when she finally approached. She said, "Hey." I nodded. Then she said, "You could have just asked for more." That was her version of a peace offering. I looked at her, really looked. For the first time, I saw her not as the kid I raised, not as my sister, not even as the person I had sacrificed for. I saw her as a stranger in familiar skin. And I realized, she still did not get it. This was never about money. It was about respect. It was about seeing me as a person, not a utility. Not the guy who cleaned up every mess, who paid the bills, who stood in the shadows while she stood in the spotlight. I just said, "Take care, Amanda." Then I walked out again. This time, I did not look back. I went home that day and sat in the same chair I had eaten 1,000 sad dinners in. But this time, it felt different. It was the first time in years that I was not carrying someone else's future on my back. I looked around my apartment, the sagging couch, the leaky faucet, the cracked tile in the kitchen. It was nothing special, but it was mine. Every rent check, every grocery run, every broken appliance, I had handled it. Not for someone else. For me. I sat there in the quiet, the kind most people would find lonely. But I found it peaceful. You know that sound when a fridge hums and there is nothing else going on? That was the soundtrack of my new life. And it was beautiful. That night, I opened my notebook again. But I did not sketch the logo. I wrote something else. A list of dreams I had shelved. I wrote, go back to school. Open my own garage. Take a vacation by the ocean, just once. Get my teeth fixed. Learn how to cook something that is not fried or frozen. Sleep in without guilt. I sat there staring at that list like it was a map out of a life I had accepted for too long. And then something strange happened. I smiled. Not a big, cheesy grin. Just a small one. The kind that creeps up slow when you realize the weight you carried is finally off your shoulders. Amanda had not changed. Maybe she never would. But I had. And I did not need her to understand to move forward. I just needed to stop handing out pieces of myself to people who never planned on giving any back. I started small. Put in notice at one of my jobs, the delivery gig. Kept the garage and the night shifts at the bar. The free time felt weird at first, like I was forgetting something. But eventually, that extra hour before bed became mine. I used it to study, read articles on small business loans, watch tutorials on bookkeeping, customer service, web design. I applied for a night course at the community college. Automotive business management. 2 nights a week. Nothing fancy, just something for me. Pete, my old boss, surprised me one night at the shop. Said he had been watching me more closely than I thought. Told me he was retiring in a couple years, maybe less. Asked if I would be interested in buying out part of the garage, start building my own name. He said, "You got the hands, kid. And now you're finally growing into the spine." That stuck with me. I said yes. We started drawing up plans. He agreed to a rent-to-own arrangement. No interest for the first year. I went home and pulled my notebook out again. Wrote, "Mike's straight deal, coming soon." I did not tell Amanda. She texted once around Christmas. A generic message. "Hope you're doing okay. Merry Christmas." I replied, "You too." That was it. She had a new boyfriend by then, according to one of our cousins. Someone from her office. Good job, flashy smile, big auto. I felt nothing about it. No anger. No jealousy. Just space. The kind of space where things can grow again. And in that quiet space, I was building something, slowly, carefully, piece by piece. I knew I might never get an apology. She might never admit what she said or even remember it. But that did not matter anymore. Because for once in my life, I was living for me. And it felt damn good. 6 months later, the Mike's Straight Deal sign went up above the shop entrance. It was not anything special, just a plain vinyl banner with bold black letters on a white background, flapping slightly in the wind. But to me, it felt like I had just carved my name into stone. A claim. A beginning. Proof that all those years I spent grinding for someone else had finally turned into something I built for me. The first few weeks were quiet. Some walk-ins. Mostly small jobs, tire rotations, brake pads, oil changes. But every person who walked through those doors reminded me of why I started this. People like me. People who had been ignored or overcharged. Single parents, tired workers, old folks trying to stretch a dollar. I talked to them like they mattered. Told them the truth. No upsells, no pressure. Just straight deals. Word got around. One afternoon, I was under the hood of a beat-up Jeep when I heard the front bell chime. I wiped the sweat off my face and stepped out into the lobby, and there she was. Amanda. She looked like she had been standing there for a minute already. Wearing a clean, office-type coat, holding a designer purse with both hands, like she needed something to grip. I froze for a second, then just nodded. "Hey." She gave me a tight smile. "I was in the area. Thought I'd stop in. Place looks good." I nodded again. Not cold. Just neutral. I did not feel angry. I did not feel much of anything, honestly. More like she was someone I used to know in another life. She glanced around the shop, like she was trying to figure out what to say next. Then she asked, "You happy?" That caught me off guard a little. Not because it was a bad question, but because it was the first time in a long time she had asked something that did not have a favor hidden inside it. I looked around the space. My shop, my tools, my life. "Yeah," I said. "I am." She nodded. The corners of her mouth curved just slightly, like maybe she wanted to say something else. Maybe even sorry. Instead, as she turned to go, she paused at the door. "You really did a lot for me," she said quietly. "More than I ever said." I looked her in the eye. "Yeah," I said. "I know." And with that, she left. I did not chase her. I did not need closure. That moment at the door? That was the closure. I may not have changed her. Maybe she will never truly understand what I gave up. But I finally chose myself. In this life I am building now, it is mine. That is more than enough.